r/AskReddit by Redical. What's the strangest thing you've ever been caught doing? I was 14 getting it on with my hand and surround sound headphones. My dad walks in on me half asleep and mumbles, "What are you doing, boy?" and shuts the door. But then comes back in to verify what he's witnessed and has the audacity to say, "You playing with your meat?" Had a co-worker that was working at a customer site. He had a creepy little crush on one of the women that worked there, but it was apparently innocent enough that no one really cared. Until one day the woman came back from lunch and saw him pick up the cushion from her chair and sniff it. He was asked to leave. I was like 13 or 14 in my room alone. My window wide opened. When I started to wonder if I ever got kissed, what the other person would be seeing from their perspective. So I went up to my closet, which had those floor-length mirrors, and I started kissing the mirror, opening my eyes every once in a while to see if I looked at all attractive doing this. One of those times I opened my eyes, I saw my brother outside my wide open window through the mirror looking at me with such a confused look on his face. I screamed and fell to the floor and hid in my room for a while. 2. I was a kid and creeped out by cousin's creepy doll. One morning me and the doll were alone in her room and I grabbed the doll and started to shake it, and while I was yelling at it that I knew it could talk, my cousin walked in and was like, "What are you doing?" And I brought the doll close to me and caressed it and said I was just kidding. She kept the doll away from me after that. One time my then G and real life friend's mom caught me pissing in her kitchen sink when I was bombed out on Ambien. I had no recollection of it the next morning. Sitting on the floor of my kitchen with the lights turned off while making mac and cheese. It doesn't help that the roommate who caught me is the one who would always find me sitting on the floor eating animal crackers or cereal out of the box. Rewiring a microwave to go past its automatic shut-off temperatures to make neat rocks and glass out of rocks I found in the backyard. It wasn't my family's microwave, and my friend wasn't home at the time. His father just stared at me as I and his kitchen were covered in clay and pumice dust. And in his microwave, his only microwave, my friend was due back from the hardware store in 5 minutes. Those were some very uncomfortable minutes. My friends and I did some questionably gay pranks back in the day as pubescent boys. Moon in front of the TV screen. Stuff like that. One day I snuck into my friend's room. He had glass doors to the front yard and got ready. I got naked and put on a sombrero and equipped my pecker in the wide end of a vuvuzela, laid in his bed in wait. Few minutes later his mom walks in during a family function. I was mortified. She either didn't notice or just ignored it and walked out. Was I caught? Too afraid to ask. Trying to pry ribs off a roadkill deer carcass. For context, I'm a bone collector. Most of my collection comes from oddity shops. But sometimes you just find a really good opportunity on the side of a highway. I never did get those ribs, though. I was so embarrassed I immediately drove off, giving the middle finger to an inanimate object. Having a full-blown debate with my dog. Contrary to most porno scenes, getting caught masturbating by your sister-in-law is not ideal. Was at the driveway at Wendy's and had exact change as I was switching the money one hand to another. The quarter slipped in between my legs and I went to grab it, but it slipped down further and the guy comes to the window as I have one hand full with cash and the other hand in between my legs trying to grab the quarter. He looked at me and said, "I'm not even going to ask," and I just said the quarter fell between my legs. I have exact change. I got it and handed it to him, pulled up to the next window to get my food, and it said it what he thought he saw me doing. So embarrassing. I was in standstill traffic, i.e. car had been turned off. People were loitering outside of their cars, and I had a baby squirrel that I was hand rearing in my car. I fed it some puppy milk formula from a bottle. Looked up and realized I had an audience of about 20 people gawking at me. Popping my friend's back by picking him up from behind and bouncing him repeatedly. A teacher walked into the room and we all froze. I have a really weird habit of needing to jump up and down while blasting music in my ears. It's the only way I enjoy listening to music. I have no idea why. Obviously, I only do this in private. But because I am blasting music, I've been walked in on a couple of times. sometimes wearing only underwear whilst I jump up and down like an idiot. In college, in lab, was coding to get double linked list to work. When my program worked, I hugged the monitor and kissed it. It's CRT monitor. So yeah, I'm old. Right at that moment, janitor guy walks in and sees it all and has this puzzled look. When I was around 10 years old, I was getting curious about fun, so I decided to look it up in the dictionary. Wouldn't you know it, my ultra-conservative mother walks in the room, so I try to play it off like I was looking up the heathen Native American tribe. She called me out for being in the S's, but I doubled down and pretended I was possibly dyslexic. But what a tangled web I wove. Arguing with myself, well, not myself, the actual person just wasn't there. So I was standing in the mirror, with animated facial expressions and gestures. Lips moving, but with no sound. I now reserve these hypothetical arguments for the shower, when I am home alone. I was the pet of the day. I mean, by my best friend made me naked and put a dog collar and went to walk with me in his house, and I was the pet of a day. And his parents caught us and said WTF. I couldn't speak until I got home. I picked up a pizza, was super excited to eat it. So I put it in the passenger seat and said something along the lines of, I'm gonna take you home and freak you up. Hyping myself and the pizza up, of course. I then saw that my window and the window of the next car was open. A woman watched and heard me talk dirty to a pizza. Another time I accidentally made eye contact with a woman while I was licking my lips after taking a sip of an Arizona tea. And she looked extremely offended by that. That was all in her head though. I'm still in denial. Holding up the pee inside my foreskin to charge up the stream. And then release just at breaking point. I was 10. Didn't lock the door. My brother happened to walk by. Been doing it ever since. Gets you going more powerfully. No TL, doctor, but it's worth it. I was working nights at this liquor store. I step outside and hit my pipe and get high AF. Then I go back in and I get to stocking shelves. Well, high as me. For a reason I still do not understand. Got Jules You Were Meant For Me stuck in my head. I have no idea why. This was in like 2004, long after Jules' career had peaked and faded. Anyway, I'm all stoned and singing Jewel loudly while stocking the cooler when I decide to have fun with it and sing it almost as though it was a YouTube apology video. So now I'm cry singing Jules You Were Meant For Me at the top of my lungs. When a customer pops their head around the corner and says, are you open? And are you okay? Apparently our door beeper had gone on the fritz. I tried to explain I was just stoned and effing around. But they were having none of it and continued to look at me as though I'd lost my damn mind. Not just for the remainder of that transaction, but since they were a regular for years after. I was playing VR chat with a skeleton skin on and I kept doing stupid dances that may or may not have involved a jerk off motion. I heard my wife's voice from outside the headset go, what the freak? I think you know. Happy Cake Day BTW. Mopping the ceiling in the women's bathroom. Slapping my belly and listening to sound it made. At least they found it funny. Having an argument with my houseplants about their watering schedules. They had their own voices too. I once saw an old bloke slowly walk near a tree, have his hat pushed off by one of the low-hanging branches, then proceed to slowly pick up the hat, declare I avenge myself in a neutral tone, and then break a twig off the tree before slowly walking off. One time I got drunk and fell asleep after masturbating with a fleshlight. I had a dream that the building I was in was on fire, and ran out of my apartment. The door was one of the ones that locks automatically when it is closed and you need the keycard to get in. It was about 6 AM. And anyone could have been coming out of their apartment in my hallway at any second, so I was banging on my door, naked with a lubed up peen for 10 minutes before my roommate woke up and let me in. It didn't even register to him that I was naked until laid back in his bed. He shouted, "Why the hell are you naked?" I just responded by laughing. I will never live that down. I was called in to assist my wife with putting together a friend's baby shower when her helper bailed at the last minute. My job was to prep the Dirty Diaper game, which, if you've not heard of it, is played like this. An assortment of name brand candy bars and chocolates are unwrapped and then mushed into a diaper so as to resemble a baby's dirty diaper. The game participants then assess the contents of each dirty diaper and have a guess at what candy bar might be lurking within. Whoever has the most correct answers wins. Now, seeing that I was called in at the last minute, I had to complete the task while at work. So there I was, in my office. 15 or so diapers laying open on my desk. Sleeves rolled up. Hurriedly rolling what appeared to be a gooey, nutty turd in my hands, when my boss walks in. We make eye contact. He glances at my work, looks at me as though I am dangerously unstable, then slowly steps back out of the office without saying a word. We've never spoken of it. In 3rd grade, I went to the bathroom, and thinking I was alone, put my hands against the wall, leaned forward, and let out a long gigantic fart. Afterwards I let out a nice big sigh of relief and pleasure. I turn around that some other kids had come in as I was releasing that massive fart. Did not look them in the eyes as I left. When I was about 14 I started to cum a lot, and so whenever I jacked off, I had to come up with something that would make it easier for me to cover the tracks, if you know what I'm saying. So I started wrapping my pencil with toilet paper. It looked like a mummy, but it did the trick. A mummy pencil. So one time, I'm in the zone in my toilet, jacking it, watching some adult content on my PSP, and all of a sudden my mom comes in and hands me the phone. Apparently my friend couldn't find a better time to call me. So 10 years later I still remember the look on my mama's face when she saw me with my PSP in left hand and a mummy pencil in the right one. Walking across the road to the dumpster with a bag of trash. One arm pulled into my hoodie, flapping it like a wing, and slowly moving forward while going in circles. Saying to myself, flying in circles. Flying in circles. Realizing that I was not circling in the right direction for the wing I had and reversing to circle opposite-wise. Saying flying in circles the wrong way. Come back inside and find that my whole family had been watching me. I was licking the bottle of empty Gatorade saying, damn, I wish I left some for today. Sniffing earwax. Thanks for watching this radical video. Subscribe for the best AskReddit videos straight to your feed 3 times a day. It really helps me out a lot.